Hey everybody, Paul here from Pretty Good Golf, and in this video I'm going to test something that I've heard a lot about online, and that is that tee height can play a big difference in how far you hit the golf ball with your driver. I'm going to test out 1-inch tees all the way up to 1 3/4 inch tees, so 1/4 inch differences in each one, and I'll let you know how far I hit each, how easy it was to hit each, and then also I'll give some subjective feedback on whether or not I feel like the average golfer like myself, or hopefully like you, can actually make that work with those real tall tees that are supposed to go further. So first up is the 1-inch tee. This says it should be for either a junior driver or should be for hybrids or even some irons, but I'm going to be hitting the 460cc driver off this little tee, and we will see how that goes. All right, as you can see, you probably can't see a whole lot of the ball behind the club there, but it is there. It's the 1-inch tee. Not a bad start, at least the result was pretty good. Spun up around 3,000 RPM. I don't know if that might have been strike location, or, I mean, strike location is gonna play a part in this for sure. Yeah, so that first one was low on the club head, which you can probably imagine is gonna happen a little bit with this short tee. Not too bad, still spinny. 3,300 RPMs of backspin. Again, we'll have to see where that was. Yeah, it looks like low toe for that one. Yeah, low toe. I'd say that's a good drive, but again, really spinny. 3,600 RPMs of backspin. Normally I see about 26 on average with this thing. And again, low toe. Didn't love that one. Still spinny. 3,300 RPMs of backspin. We'll see in a second where that was hit. Yeah, you guessed it, same spot. Low toe. Same look, but that might be low heel. 3,600 RPMs of backspin. A little bit shorter carry. 261. Okay, next up I've got the 1 1/4 inch tee. I actually don't mind this. If you've got these burr tees, it's a number 5. And sometimes I like playing these with the driver, either the 5 or the 6 usually, but this I'm assuming should be lower spin, maybe a little higher launch. Let's see how this goes. So this is the 1 1/4 inch tee. And again, now you can probably see the ball a little bit better behind the club there, but it is maybe a little lower than the average pro would recommend. I think the 6 or the 1 1/2 inch tee is kind of standard driver length, but for whatever reason I sort of prefer this one. Decent start, but still over 3,000 RPMs of backspin. 15-degree launch. I think that's really good with a driver, like something that I would aspire to. And that one was still a little bit low on the face, maybe a little bit toe. That one's peeling off to the right a little bit. Spinny, 3,700, but that might have been a bit of a heel strike, but let's see. Yeah, just low on the face again. Left the face open a little bit though too, I think. Interesting, real spinny still. 3,600 RPMs of backspin. A little higher on the face though. That is a lot of spin for that impact. Oh yeah, that club path got way out to in. A little better, but still spinny. Better strike, still a little bit low on the head though. Okay, we'll do one more to get 5 decent ones with this 1 1/4 inch tee. Okay, so that was 5 reasonable shots with the 1 1/4 inch tee. Next, let's see if I can get that strike point a little higher up in the head, reduce the spin. Next up is the 1 1/2 inch tee. So hopefully this is kind of what I think is most recommended for driver. I'll give that a go, see if I can move that strike point up, lower that spin, and get a little more distance with the taller tee. Okay, so right off the bat with the 1.5 inch tee, you can probably see quite a bit more of the ball. This is more of the standard driver tee height. Looks totally reasonable. I don't quite feel like I'm gonna sky this one yet, but maybe the next one might be starting to feel a little bit high. That was a better drive for sure. 3,000 backspin still. Maybe a little bit low on the face, but 260 carry I think is better than the rest so far. Yeah, pretty low on the face. That's gonna be my swing though. I think I might be subconsciously compensating for this tee height, so I'm gonna try not to. I think that one's better. Only 2,700 backspin, 268 carry, that's pretty good. Still low in the face though, interesting. You can see the numbers there though, that the club path was less out to in, so less of a fade swing, and the angle of attack was almost 7 degrees up, which is pretty seriously up for me. I'm usually living around 4. Well, I think I definitely moved the strike higher in the face, but maybe overkill. Still a good drive. But yeah, that was like high heel. There we go, that felt better. 2,700 backspin, 263 carry. That had 17 degrees launch. That's a high launching driver for me. So that was the 1.5 inch tee. That's your pretty standard driver height. And I did notice that once I calibrated my swing and started to hit more of either the center of the face or maybe the upper quadrant of the face, I was getting a lot more carry, a little bit lower spin, which you might expect. And I don't know if it was more consistent. I still probably would need to practice with that tee height a lot more to actually make that more comfortable and to keep the ball in the fairway a little more. Next up, I'm moving into the 1 3/4 inch tee. This might feel a little high for me, but let's see if I can match it up nicely and hit some long drives. So the 1 3/4 inch tee, you can see a lot more of the ball behind the club there. It's looks pretty daunting. I feel like I'm gonna have to change something in my swing to not smash it off the crown of this driver, but here we go. Let's see if I can hit some good ones. That looked pretty high. It still had a lot of backspin, so I imagine it was low on the head, but 17 degrees of launch. Actually, that was kind of middled. Club path, 7 degrees out to in. With that face, I guess that's what's causing a bunch of that spin, but interesting result. Okay, got a ball going the other way. 2,800 RPMs of backspin. That was only just under 14 degrees of launch. It was low toe, but I must have had the face closed. That was a wild one. 3,000 RPMs of backspin, 258 carry, 13 degrees launch. Again, probably like big right to left swing, yeah, 6 degrees, and a bit of a closed face. Okay, that was probably the swing. Still 3,000 RPMs of backspin, but 15 degrees launch, 260 carry. Just low on the face, but pretty centered. $18 degrees of launch, that is so high. 3,300 RPMs of backspin. Yeah, I guess still low toe. That's just my swing. All right, so to give you an example, this was the 1 inch tee. This was the 1 3/4 inch tee. There's quite a big difference in tee height. Let's take a look at the data and see if there's a big difference in distance. Okay, so here's the comparison. I have removed the terrible shots. So I have 5 representative shots for each tee height. And you can see here right off the bat, it really sticks out. The lower tees, the 1 inch and the 1 1/4 inch tee, promoted more of a rightward ball path for me versus the taller tees. I was closing up the face a little bit more and I was getting some that were going left. None of them were really better or worse in terms of out of bounds. I think maybe the taller tees I was hitting further, but maybe a little more wildly. That's just gonna be my swing with that. But you can see that very clearly that the lower tees were off to the right, higher tees started to move more leftwards. And then we also do see spin drop drastically when you get into that 1.5 inch sort of standard tee height. And once you move up even to slightly higher at 1 3/4, it was significantly less backspin than with the lower tee heights, and that's just going to be probably a bit of strike point and maybe a little bit of attack angle as well. The big story though is distance. With the two sort of lower tees, we had 248, 249 yards of carry respectively. And then as we moved into the 1.5 inch tee and the 1 3/4 inch tee, we started to see more of what I would expect as my standard distance of 260 yards of carry, rolling out to around 280 with both of those. I still wasn't particularly comfortable with that 1 3/4 inch tee. I bet if I practiced with it a little bit more, I could start to hit the middle of the face and maybe slightly high on the face to promote a bit less spin, a little more of the upward launch angle. So you can see I only had 13 degrees of launch with the higher tee, which doesn't really make much sense except for the fact that I'm not used to it and my swing wasn't quite figuring that one out yet. So if we look at the club data though, we can see club head speed was pretty similar across the board. 1 inch tee, maybe I had a bit of a harder time connecting with it, so I was slowing down a tiny bit, but 105, 106, 107 kind of average swing speed. And then we can see too that the attack angle did climb with the two sort of standard driver height tees. So the 1.5 inch tee I think is pretty much the gold standard tee, but then if you can hit a higher tee, maybe you can launch it a little bit higher and get a little less spin. But I had about 6 degrees of positive attack angle, which is a good thing with the driver. That's going to help you launch it higher and spin it lower and carry the ball further. Overall though, you can see my strike pattern today specifically was pretty low toe no matter which tee I used. With you'd think that with the 1 3/4 inch tee I should be living closer to the top part of the club, but for whatever reason my brain was compensating and making me hit that bottom part of the club. So again, practice probably is the way to go to try and hit those taller tees a little bit further and a little bit more consistently. So there we have it. I think what I have seen for myself is that a higher tee has more possible distance, so you can get a higher launch, a little bit less spin, you can hit up on the ball a little bit more, but you're gonna need to practice with that if it's not your standard tee height that you're used to. This 1.5 inch tee I think is a great sweet spot for me, and it's probably not a surprise to anyone that this is sort of the standard driver tee height. It allows me to be comfortable hitting that, not thinking I'm gonna smash it off the crown of the club and sky it straight up, but still allowing me to have that upward angle of attack, a little bit less spin, more distance, more carry, all those good things. I hope you found that helpful and interesting, maybe a little bit entertaining. If you did, please subscribe, that helps me a lot. And thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.